What began as an investment in a small Midwestern company has become a publicly traded multi-million-dollar business involved in everything from manufacturing to leasing to investments. Behind Obsidian Enterprises is its vice chairman, Scott Mccain, and his strategies for success in business.
We bought a small company in Lake City, Michigan. And from that, we built it into now where we own 14 companies on our public and private sides. And we have grown from an under six-figure investment to over $100 million in sales on both public and private sides in just 5 years. As was mentioned, recently named one of the fastest growing public companies in the country. And the reason this happened is because we focus on the experience that we create. And one of the things that we have learned through this process of building a $100 million company is this: mind share precedes market share. If you want to grow your market, you first have to get their attention. You first have to find a way to get them to link with you and connect with you. And the way you do that is through emotion. Emotion precedes economics. The organizations that merely focus on the economic aspect are going to miss the boat in long-term retention of customers. Why? Because it has never been more important to create these long-term emotional connections with the clients and prospects that you have.
With experience as a business leader and speaker, Scott Mccain brings insight and entertainment to audiences around the world. He is a regular contributor to business and political analysis on the Fox News channel. While building a company that serves the biggest names in music and entertainment with celebrity coaches, as well as NASCAR teams with sophisticated haulers and anyone who wants a small cargo trailer, Scott focused on three principles: the high concept, the power of story, and the ultimate customer experience.
If you got a business book at home, good chance one of them might be In Search of Excellence. Remember that book? Before Who Moved My Cheese, it was the biggest selling business book of all time. Tom Peters, Robert Waterman, In Search of Excellence, powerful book. But if you pull that book off your shelf and blow the dust off of it and thumb through it, here's the amazing thing that you're going to find: over 40% of the companies cited in that book as models of excellence are no longer in existence. Why? Well, when you survey those companies and when you survey why this happened, it's because the company history got in the way. Does that sound right to you? In other words, what I mean by that is, because their company had always been this particular thing, they weren't willing to change or expand or to grow or to modify, because they'd always been this one particular thing, and that's what they were going to be. And along with that, they failed to change. Or there were new technologies, or there were new methods of distribution, or there were differences that they were unable to adapt to. So the challenge for those of us in this room is, especially working for companies that have such an incredible history, how do we make certain that we continue to change? And I think part of that comes out of how we approach all of these things that we're talking about in terms of customers wanting an experience. So let me recommend three strategies for you that we use in our organizations on a daily basis, that we're constantly checking to see how well we're doing, that I think are going to be vital for what you're doing in the future as well. First one is called high concept.
The high concept is a short, powerful, grabbing statement that interests and involves the audience. It hooks the audience, tells them a little about your business, and makes them want to find out more.
This is a powerful way to communicate. I can say absolutely, positively, overnight, and you know the company I'm talking about is FedEx, of course. FedEx was founded on a high concept that Fred Smith had. The pizza business, for example, very crowded, very competitive business. The pizza business, Tom Moynihan enters with a high concept. That's all he's got. But he founded Domino's on your pizza in 30 minutes. Now think about that. He differentiated himself from the rest of his competitors based upon a high concept. In fact, Papa John's, a more recent entry into the pizza marketplace, differentiated themselves with a high concept. Better ingredients, better pizza, right? Now think about this. Papa John's will deliver in many locations. They're a pizza business that happens to deliver. Domino's, on the other hand, is a delivery business, and what they deliver just happens to be a pizza. Nobody ever picked up the phone, called Domino's, because it is the best pizza you ever put in your mouth, right? You call Domino's because it gets there fast. Now, here's how companies in the same industry differentiate themselves based on a high concept. Wall Street Journal last week had an article, and the front of the article said, the first part of the article had a great line. It said, "A roach in your room now means a free night at Sheraton." Bragging about their new commitment to customer service. Let me ask you this question. If you wake up and find a roach in your room, is your first response to go, "Hoo-hoo, a free night"? Second, even if you give me the night free, does that make it more likely I'm going to come back? No.
The power of story pulls the audience in. In a movie, the story sets up conflict between characters, works through the conflict, and then finds a resolution. Through this process, the audience is emotionally connected to the characters. The same is true of business communication.
The goal of most business communication and most sales communication should not be to become more effective. I've been to so many meetings like this where people get up, speakers get up, and they say, we've got to be more effective, and we can communicate more effectively, we'll sell more, and that's wrong. The goal should not be to be effective, it should be to be persuasive. If you're effective, it means that I understand what you're telling me. It does not mean I'm going to do anything about it. When your communication is so good that not only are you understood, but now I'm willing to spend money, or now I'm willing to, start a program, or now I'm willing to put up end caps, or now I'm willing to do any of that kind of stuff. When that happens, that means you've been persuasive. That's the goal, and that happens through the power of story. But most of us really don't know how to tell a story. If you take a look in Hollywood, there are 3 building blocks of story, and show business understands this. That's 3 acts. Act 1, introduce characters in conflict. Think about the movies we talked about earlier. In Speed, you've got Keanu Reeves, the good guy, Dennis Hopper, the bad guy, Sandra Bullock, the love interest. We meet them right away. There is a bomb on a bus. It's got to go 50 miles an hour. It will blow up. You got characters, you got conflict, you got a movie. Die Hard. Remember Bruce Willis getting off the plane? The limo driver picks him up. It's his first day on the job as a limo driver. Bruce Willis and he start talking. Bruce Willis talks about his marriage is in trouble. Then we meet his wife who's at this Christmas party. The terrorists take them hostage. So now we've got a guy that's got to save his wife and save his marriage. You got characters, you got conflict, you got a movie. Act 2, the varied efforts by the characters to resolve the conflict. It's all the things that Bruce Willis does to kill the terrorists and save his wife. It's all the things that Keanu Reeves does to defuse the bomb. Act 2 is always the longest, but it's always the information about how the characters are trying to resolve the conflict. Act 3, the heroic resolution of the conflict. It's when Keanu Reeves, kills Dennis Hopper and saves Sandra Bullock, and they live happily ever after, at least until Speed 2. Right? It's when Bruce Willis kills the terrorist and saves his wife. That's Act 3. Now, what does this have to do with feed sales? It's this. The fundamental problem that I've seen over 20 years in the feed business is in most feed communication, we begin in Act 2. We start communicating based on all the things that our products will do to solve their problem without an Act 1 that emotionally hooks them. And the challenge is, how do we go back and find a compelling way to tell the story? And the way that we do that is through an Act 1 that hooks the characters that we're communicating with the conflict that they have, so therefore the way that we solve the problem has emotional resonance.
The final piece of the puzzle is the ultimate customer experience. By asking, what if everything went exactly right? And answering that question from the perspective of your customers, you can create the best possible experience every time.
We are a transaction-oriented and a transaction mentality economy. We focus so much on the transaction, we totally forget about creating the experience. But yet at Obsidian, one of the things that we've done to build our business is to realize the more we focus on transactions, the greater the likelihood that we will lose transactions. But the more we focus on creating these compelling customer experiences, the greater the likelihood is that we'll stimulate additional transactions. I know that's ironic, but it's the way it works. If you focus on the experience, you'll create incredible transactions. One of our companies is Pyramid Coach. We bought this bus company, and we made a very bad mistake. You buy a bus company, immediately you think you're in the bus business. What a bad mistake. Not about the bike, it's not about the feet, it's not about the bus, but boy, as soon as you get in the bus business, you think it is. Have you ever seen Ozzy Osbourne on his bus on the show The Osbournes? That's one of our buses. Ozzy and Sharon are two of our best customers. If you're a country music fan, we're based in Nashville. We do buses for Alan Jackson and Sarah Evans and Garth when he tours and Diamond Rio and folks like that. If you're into rock and roll music, we do Puddle of Mudd and Stained. We do the band Chicago is one of our best ones. And so we buy this bus company and we think, well, you know, if we'd tear out the carpet and put in marble, if we'd focus on the bus, upgrade the interior, we could charge more for the lease. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. We'll redo the buses. I teach this stuff and I almost screwed it up. That's how hard it is to get this through your head about creating experiences. I said, wait a minute. We'd already had the designer. We'd already bought the marble. We'd already done all this stuff. And I said, you know, if this was a company that was hiring me to come speak, I'd say, go to your customer. Ask them to define what the ultimate experience is. Sounds so simple, but how often do we do it? So we went to Alan Jackson, and we went to Chicago, and we went to Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne. You know what? They didn't want better buses. They wanted better bus drivers. Picture going down the road in this thing at 3 in the morning. Do you want to wake up and wonder if the driver's safe? Think about all the wild and varied personalities in a band. You need somebody driving that bus who can get along with everybody. You go to an Alan Jackson concert and you see the driver standing there by the bus, would never occur to you that's my employee. You would think that's Alan Jackson's employee. And so you need people that are great ambassadors for the fans. So we spent some money on the buses, but what we really spent money on was communication training for drivers, giving them a chance to go through stuff that you and I take for granted in terms of selling skills and communication skills. We changed the compensation so drivers weren't paid just on how many miles they went down the road, but in how they retained and got client loyalty. And we went from 28 buses to 58 buses, went from fourth in the market to arguably first. And we did it based on focusing on the client need, the customer need, and creating a compelling experience for them.
Scott Mccain runs his business by these principles: the high concept, the power of story, and the ultimate customer experience. They are the guiding principles of successful businesses today and in the future.
For 3 decades, what we have done is to create a culture that expects an experience to be a part of whatever the process is. Isn't that wonderful for people who have businesses planning and executing special events? Because now what happens is we anticipate an experience is going to be an integral part of every single thing that we do. What that means is in today's world, you're creating an experience whether you realize it or not.
Scott Mccain is the author of All Business is Show Business and the forthcoming What Customers Really Want, making sure your organization offers what your clients crave. For more information on Scott Mccain, contact the provider of this video.